What's going on, everybody? My name is Courtney McIntosh, and this is another episode of the Black Dad Chronicles. I have a guest with us today. He is a pastor. He is a brother, doctor, reverend, as we say. Mr. Jose Dorsey, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good, man. It's an honor and a pleasure to actually have this time with you.
Oh, yeah, man, no doubt. We've been trying to plan this for a while, and it's like the stars align today, So how you doing?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, real good. All
right, so tell the people about yourself. Who is Jose Dorsey?
Well, Jose Dorsey is actually one of my most profound experiences in my own identity is being a pastor of Center of Spirit and Truth. Mm-hmm. I've always, well, I won't say always. I knew this day was coming. I just didn't know that it would be here. Very many opportunities to pastor other churches, but here it is, the small, intimate congregation. I fell in love with you guys, and so I'm a pastor of this church. But I'm also, in my own, not in my own time, but in my career, I'm an investigator with Homeland Security. That's kind of cool. But outside of that, I'm an entrepreneur. I own a business. It's an entertainment business where we DJ a lot of weddings and parties and stuff like that. And I'm also a dad.
Hey.
So.
Hey, that's the point of having you on, man. Yep. You're a dad, So how many kids you got?
Oh, we talking biological?
Yeah. And another thing, because, it's not a lot. I mean, it doesn't take much to be a positive influence or a father figure in somebody else's life. Right. Now, it does take an investment on your time. A lot of times your talents. Like I had an interview with a friend of mine, Darren, which... That's the lost audio, so I got to get him back on the podcast. But one of his main influences in his life growing up was one of his coaches, his first football coach. So it doesn't have to be, how many biological kids do you have? But I know we all have friends and who have kids who, that's my nieces, my nephews, stuff like that. And we try to, be a positive in their life. So biologically, how many kids do you have?
I have five biological children.
Okay, so what's the breakdown?
Well, I have 4 boys and 1 girl.
Okay. And who's the oldest?
The oldest is my son. I have a son that's 25 years old.
Oh, okay. And your youngest?
The youngest is 16. Yeah, I'm kind of old.
Hey, if you look at this guy, he looks younger than I am, and people tell me I look young. All right, so how was the Dorsey household growing up?
Truthfully, the Dorsey household growing up was really dysfunctional. Mm-hmm. I come from living in the projects for most of my adolescent.
Now, are you from Detroit?
I'm from Detroit.
Okay.
Grew up in most of the projects on the east, Detroit's east side.
Okay.
Like the Buffalo Court projects, the Brewsters, the Palmer Park projects, Herman Gardens. But I spent most of my time over there in the Buffalo projects. The formal name was the Charles Terrace.
Okay.
Housing development, but I grew up there, and it was very dysfunctional because my parents, they really weren't good parents. Like my dad he was a gambler, and he was all about swindling people out of money and chasing women. He was a big womanizer. Mm-hmm. My mom was, she was an alcoholic and into, the different men. So they separated at a very young age, maybe about 5 years old. Okay. And so I basically was in a situation where one of my brothers was taken out of the household. I was the oldest.
Okay.
One of my brothers was taken out of the household because he threatened to kill himself. He said, "I'm not coming back to the household."
Okay. Well, how many siblings do you have?
I have 2 brothers.
Okay.
And so my other brother went to stay with my mom. So we got one child staying with my dad, me. Mm-hmm. The other child staying with my mom, and then the middle son, my middle brother, he was taken by the state.
Okay.
So it was very dysfunctional because only thing I had really was around me was my dad.
Okay.
And my dad exhibited all the negative things. So I didn't look to him as, a motivating factor in my life.
Okay, so how was your relationship? Were you and your siblings close?
We weren't close, but I won't say that we was distant either. I mean, we loved each other. We can only love each other from a distance. We had to see my middle brother when we got a chance to go see him because he was awarded the state. But me and my other brother, when we were around each other, I mean, it wasn't we didn't miss a beat.
Okay.
No love lost.
Okay, so now, how did that affect you seeing that? Because there's a lot of guys, not a lot of guys necessarily, but there are people in situations where they do have certain kids. They have kids, but they don't have custody of all of them. So as a child, how did that affect you? Seeing that you and your brothers weren't together.
It really made me very angry with my father. It didn't play out. It was just some inner emotions that I had that I never actually released.
Okay.
But, I was upset because my father could have actually got my brother, and he chose not to.
Oh.
And so, it added to the dysfunctionality, in our household. Mm-hmm. So, I always knew that from the things that my dad did growing up, I wanted to give my children everything that we never received.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so one of the things I'm realizing is that statement that you just said means a lot of things for a lot of different people. A lot of people say, I got to give my kids everything that they never had, and they, shower their kids with gifts, or just whatever. In my instance, I was growing up and I was like, man, I'm going to give my kids, what I wanted most, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't, it took me a while to realize that it wasn't, the gifts or the money. It was a father. I really wanted, because, my mom and my dad split when my sister and I were 4. We moved up here from Texas. He moved to Las Vegas. And then he died when I was 10. So it was like the thing that I wanted most was, a father. So, but, a lot of people, because my brother, we can contrast that. My brother is like, I want to give my son everything that I never had. And he just, he uses that, and buys the physical things, So, but, that's different for different people. So,
well, if I can jump in there real quick. 1984. Okay. The Tigers won the World Series, man. I never forget it. Lance Parrish, Chet Lemon, all these like big names. I remember those because in 1984, that was the year that my dad was my best friend.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So this little boy, my dad actually took some time out to, he bought me a glove. He came out and threw the ball with me a little bit more than he had ever done in any other year. We'd sit down and watch the games together. But that's really about the only year that I can remember that we did stuff like that. Okay,
so what did you use for, like, because a lot of people try to find escapes, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people in our situations, young, black, in the inner city, they turn to sports as an escape. You know what I'm saying? So what did you have? Was sports your escape? Or, because I know that you just referenced, the 84 Tigers and that feeling that it brought to the city and that feeling that it brought to you. What was your escape?
Actually, you would in the projects. We didn't have many TVs, and so I just go out there and make what we call ghetto games.
Right.
You roll a tire down the street, an old tire, and hope that you don't hurt your hands doing it. But we made little ghetto games. So it was different friends. From around the projects. Those were pastimes. Sometimes it was sports. I wasn't a really big sport-oriented person, though. Okay. So, it was just being around, other people that had different issues, just like me.
Right.
When you was in the projects, you didn't have to worry about people talking about you because you both lived in the projects.
Right.
You both come from an oppressed environment. Yep. So you were hanging around like-minded people, and it didn't make it feel so bad.
Okay. Now, I know a lot of times... when a child is, separated from a parent. Because I know for a long time, I had some deep-seated, resentment towards my father. And I didn't know how to express it. And finally, it was maybe Father's Day in 2006. I just had a breakdown, man. It was in the parking lot after church. We had this big... Father's Day, thing at church, and I couldn't take it. I had to leave, and I just broke down because it was like all those issues that I had with my father not being there, and then him dying. You know what I'm saying? If I just, I had some resentment that I didn't know I had, and it just all bubbled to the surface, man. So, how did that reflect? I mean, how did that affect your relationship with your moms?
The relationship with my dad didn't really have an impact on the relationship with my mom.
Okay.
Or vice versa.
Okay.
I was always upset with him, and truthfully, if I'm honest, and this is a statement that I don't usually make in too many forms, but I didn't forgive my dad for a lot of that stuff until he died.
Oh,
so
okay.
there he was laying there, and I preached about this several times, struggling with forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the first times that I remember actually being able to forgive anybody. It was when my dad died. I had to just let all that stuff go, and it's a good thing I did because I think it would have consumed me.
Man, that's deep, man. All right, so your oldest is 25, right? Jose Jr. Yep. How old were you when he was born?
Oh, I was 17. Was I 17? Yeah, I was 17 when he was born.
Okay, young parent.
Yep.
All right, so
wait a minute. I think I'm wrong. I was 16 when he was born. I turned 17 later on in the year. Okay, so growing up,
as you got older, you seeing your father and your mother, separated. Your brother's not around. Did that affect how you looked at women? How you how you approach relationships with other people? How did that affect you?
Well, I come from an environment with my dad and my uncles where they always taught me to keep a spare and a pair. Mm-hmm. Now that's 4 if you really counting because you got your regular girlfriend, right? A spare is another person, that's 2, and a pair, so that's 4. So that's the mentality, and so I would approach relationships with that mentality.
Okay.
So I always had a main, my starters, and I also had bench players.
All right.
And so it really, I believe it contributed to being addicted to sex at a very young age. I had a sexual addiction. And I really didn't know it until after growing up with it and struggling with it and looking back on it.
And a lot of people, because in the black community, seeing somebody talking to a shrink or just sitting down and talking to somebody, especially for men, for us, it's kind of looked at as taboo, man.
Yeah.
And you spoke about having a sex addiction. Well, it was the same way with me because I had a porn addiction for a long time, and I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, I couldn't see what it was. I just thought it was normal behavior, for a teenager to do, Because I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have nobody showing me differently. And I discovered my first porn probably when I was like 11. Because my dad died when I was 10. I was probably 10 because we went out to California for the funeral, came back, we got some of his stuff shipped back to us, and, lo and behold, it was 3 porn tapes. So, I was interested, and we watched. Me, my brother, and my sister just, would sit up and watch them, and because we didn't know any better, you know what I'm saying? Right. So, a lot of times in our community, we have issues, and not just men either, women too. We have those issues that go kind of like undiagnosed or unchecked until a lot of times it's too late. Yeah. It's just one of those things. So you said you dealt with it when you got older. So did it affect your relationship with Jose's mom?
It did not affect my relationship with his mom to the point where that was what ended our relationship.
Now, were you two the same age?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, we was not. I was 16, and his mom, actually, she was 14.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was very early, but it didn't affect her because I was in that puppy love kind of stage.
And y'all were still kids, really.
We were still kids, so I really wasn't having as much sex at the time. So she was she was good enough for me.
Right.
You know. So no, it didn't it didn't take root at that point.
Okay.
I was actually preaching to other fellas my age, like, man, you just need one girlfriend.
All right, so Jose Jr. is 25. Who's the next one?
The next one is Javon.
Okay, how old is Javon?
Javon is 22.
Okay, so that's
21. Javon is 21.
Okay, so that's 4 years past. So Jose Jr. is 4 at this time. So how did that come about?
Well, Jose's mom and I, we decided to just break up. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sorry, I decided to break up with her. She was, it's funny, she didn't do anything wrong to me, man. I broke up with her because of how I was thinking about what I wanted from my son. Mm. She used to cuss her mother out. Oh. And I was thinking just one day, sporadically, if she will disrespect her mom who carried her for all that time and struggled, did all the overtime just to make, to take care of her, mm-hmm. I don't have anything coming, as her man. Right. And I decided, I don't want to be in a household where I'm arguing and fighting, with my wife or whatever. And, mm-hmm. I don't want my child to be around me because I was around him. Okay. So because of that, man, I broke up with her. And I met Javon's mother, my other children's mother. I had all my other children by Janelle. Okay. And she was my high school sweetheart, actually. And we got together. We didn't have any children until we was 19 years old. But okay. We then had Javon, which is my 21.
Okay, so what are some of the mistakes you made? Because it's different for you. We have two different perspectives. See, you were in the house with your father, but you also said that he wasn't, the greatest influence. So, were you able to watch his mistakes and apply them to your life as far as you raising, your kids, or did you have to look somewhere else, or did you have someone else to follow? Did you have another role? Who are your role models?
It's a combination of things now. Now, when I tell you this, I don't want you to think that I'm into pills and chlorophyll. Oh my God! But Bill Cosby, believe it or not, he was one of my role models. I didn't have anybody to be a physical role model for me. So I looked at Bill Cosby, and I wanted to be what was his name on the show?
Cliff Huxtable.
I wanted to be Cliff Huxtable mm-hmm. for Claire somewhere. Mm-hmm. I wanted to love on my kids and have them love on me.
Make corny dad jokes.
Yep, stuff like that, man. Just like the Cosby Show. So it's a combination of things because when I looked at my dad, I said that I wanted to be 10 times better of a dad than my dad was. Okay. So I treated even at this age, throughout their lives, every single interaction I tell my kids, I love you. Mm-hmm. And they're not ashamed to do it back, regardless, they're around their girlfriends or, whatever. Because that's what's been in culture. It's been in culture because I felt like I was without love. So I never wanted them to be without love.
Right. Okay. And that's a thing, one of the things that you want to give your kid, you want to make sure you give your kids, you want to make sure that they're loved, that they never have to want for anything. All right, so let's transition. Mm-hmm. Jose Jr.'s 4. You get with your high school sweetheart Janelle, right?
Yep.
All right, so then Javon's born, right?
Yep.
So how was that, being a father for the second time?
Being a father for a second time, I wasn't.
Because I know the first time was probably scary. Because, I talked to a lot of guys.
I have to stop you right there.
Really?
No, man.
Really?
It wasn't scary. Oh. It wasn't scary. Only thing that was scary is before he was born. Okay. Before Jose was born. So I was listening to so many people tell me your life is going to be over. Mm-hmm. Or, oh, man, child support going to hit you. And they all the negativity came before. Okay. When that baby was born, man, I looked into his little eyes and I even gave him my name, and mm-hmm. man, I said that I would die before I not give him everything. Okay. And so I realized growing up and hearing different stories from other people, even as a teenager, ain't no rule book on this.
Right.
Right? So I realized that I have to just do the best I can And somewhere in my heart, man, I thought that was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so that made it not be scary for me. I was not afraid.
Okay.
I was not afraid. So the second time around, by this, I was at 16 years old. Everybody was telling me how proud of me they were because of the dad that I was. And so, like, being a dad for the second time, only thing I was worried about was money.
Okay.
But outside of that, I knew that the love that I had in me and the experiences that I had, that I was destined to be a good dad.
Okay. So I've talked to a couple of people, and this is how I feel myself. Like, I've done things, I've had dreams to do certain things, and they haven't worked out. But the one thing that has worked out is me being a dad. I believe that becoming a father is probably I would probably have to say the second best choice I've ever made. Saying first best being, giving my life to God, you know what I mean? But becoming a father is, a close second for me, and that's it's beautiful to hear you say that. And a lot of guys I hear, say that. And that's the reason why I want to tell stories, because especially in our community, the adage is, oh man, you can't show emotion as a man. You can't cry, you know what I'm saying? You gotta be hard. And every guy ain't like that, you know what I'm saying? And it's weird because, I look at my son and I see how awkward he is. I see how sensitive he is, and I'm like, and sometimes I let that creep into the back of my mind, and I have to stop and think, like, I was the exact same way, So having the foresight and the wherewithal to break that that stigma and to be affectionate with the kids, that's a beautiful thing. So, all right, so child number 3. So now, were you and Janelle married?
Yeah, we got married when I went to the military.
Okay, yeah, military. So what branch did you join?
Marine Corps.
Haha, Semper Fi.
Yeah.
All right, so how long were you in the Marines?
I was in the Marine Corps for 2 years.
2 years? Okay.
I got out of
Oh,
it.
okay. So how did that shape you? Because the people don't know that, a lot of times people say, oh man, the military will make you a man. And people have different experiences based on a branch, you know what I'm saying? I can tell you from my own personal experience, being in the military made me be more punctual, taught me how to iron better, you know what I'm saying? It didn't help me be more responsible, So how did the military shape you?
The military actually gave me things that I went to the military looking for.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of boot camp, my drill instructor told me...
you were in Paris Island?
Yeah, Paris Island. I was one of the most elite recruits that he ever trained.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that I was one of the most elite recruits because it wasn't no work for him to do when I got there. Everything like, the 1,000-yard stare and all, I wanted that discipline. Mm-hmm. I hungered for it. Mm. A lot of people, they had to be molded in it. Yeah. I actually desired it. I wanted it.
Okay.
I wanted them to yell. I wanted them to get, behind me and like push me and motivate me. Those are the things I was hungering for. So, it actually molded how I looked at life, which I think affects how I was as a father. And what I mean by that is you talk about being hard and these certain personas that, men are supposed to carry, like not showing emotion and things like that. Well, I did get some of that from the military.
Okay.
But how I looked at what is hard and what is not. See, before growing up in high school, if you wore certain clothes or if you carried a certain attitude, had a certain swag, that had a lot to do with being hard.
Right.
When I went to the military, that shifted, that changed. Okay. That's one of the greatest gifts the military gave me. I didn't think of hard as a certain look or a certain attitude. I look at hard as actually a certain mentality. You out there, you humping, we call them hump force marches. Mm-hmm. You on a force march for 20 miles. It's a black sun, it's a black flag day, over 100 degrees outside. Oh, yeah. You got on fatigues, a brain bucket or a helmet, you know what I'm saying? You got on a flak jacket carrying these weapons, and somewhere in your mind, you got to get the intestinal fortitude to keep putting one foot in front of the other, to like actually finish that hump. That's hard.
Oh yeah.
Hardcore is going into enemy territory, not knowing if you're coming back and still being able to focus on the mission.
And I gotta be honest, man. You know, I was on an aircraft carrier, man. You know, I was relatively safe.
Which one?
John F. Kennedy.
Kennedy. I was on Kennedy before too. I was on Kennedy, Carl Vinson, and Abraham Lincoln. I
was part of the last crew to lead a Kennedy once she got decommissioned. I was actually the second to last group to leave. You know what I'm saying? So I missed that ship, man. You know, it had some fun times, and everybody, you know, everybody's military experience is different. Like, to me, the military was like college, even though I went to college. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, people say college is the best 4 years of your life. You make great friends. And, you know, I went to college for 2, and that's true. I still have friends who I can call friends to this day. But the bond that you have when, you know, you're out on deployment for 6 months and you don't, you know what I'm saying, you don't see your family. You don't know when you're going to port. You know what I'm saying? You gotta, and I was a part of like the, because I worked in the supply department. So I was part of the sit rep team. So, you know, pretty much what we did was got all the, what is that? All the stock that came on board the ship. So what would happen was, because our ship was so big.
Was that like logistics?
Yep. Yeah. We would have a supply ship come, you know, and basically pull up next to us, shoot lines out so they could send stuff through the hangar bay, right, on pallets. But then while that was happening, up top on the flight deck, you had helicopters dropping stuff. So, and that was part of I looked forward to that because it was fun. It was like an adventure. You know what I'm saying? It was an escape for the Monday inventorying and seeing the same metal. Was out there on the flight deck, you know, just running. As soon as that helicopter dropped, running, taking the stick off, sending it back up, running back. They come through with the forklift. So, you know, the military was fun to me, but I didn't get that discipline that you said that you got. And, you know, that's a common thing with, you know, the Marines, you know, because my brother was a Marine.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Navy and Air Force get clowned because, you know, it's the softer two branches. You know what I'm saying? So, where were you stationed at?
I was stationed in Bremerton, Washington, detached from out of Silverdale, Washington, which is a naval submarine base.
All right, and so during this point, you're in the military. So, how many kids do you have while you're in the military?
True. I still just had those 2 kids. Okay. I actually had a stepson because Janelle had a son before we got together. So she had a son, I had a son, and then we got together and we had another child.
Okay.
So I didn't have my second. I'm sorry, my second son by her, but my third son overall until we got out of the military. We got out of the military.
Okay, and that's Jonte, right?
Nope.
No?
No.
No?
It's not Jonte.
Oh, all right.
Nope, that's Trevor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, Trevor. I'm going to knock him out. He was supposed to be in church today.
Okay. All right, so 3 kids, you know, and life for you. So what's going on with you at that point? You get out of the military, you know, now what?
I get out of the military. I got all of these ambitions toward getting on the police department. Mm-hmm. So instead, I went back to what I was good at, which was being in retail. I was really good at retail. Okay. I could sell a blind man prescription sunglasses, brother, back in the day. So, you know, I had to come back and like dig back in the trenches where I knew I could make good money at, take care of my family.
So did you come back home? Did you come back to Detroit? Or
yep,
okay,
came back to Detroit.
Okay.
I could not stay in Washington because even though Janelle and our first 2 kids her son and my son was there, I still had my first son here in Detroit. Okay. So staying out there in Washington was not going to be good enough for me.
Okay. And it's funny you say that. A lot of people, you know, live separate from their kids, and I was stationed with guys who lived on the ship, you know, and they had like it's like 4 years or so. But you know, some guys had a lifestyle. They were, you know, nearing the end of their careers, and they probably maybe had like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and they would just come and they would live on the boat for those 3 years, man, and I know that had to be hard, and that's something that I never wanted to do. You know, when Robin actually enlisted with me, but then she got pregnant, and you know they released her. So my mom was like, she really didn't want us to get married. You know, she thought, maybe she thought we were too young. She was like, you could be a father from afar. And I looked at my dad, not being physically there, and it's like, nah, I can't do that. And then it's kind of like the old adage was, you got a girl pregnant, you marry her. You know what I'm saying? That's a real old school, way of thinking that, traditional, so that's what I did. And, I loved her too. I figured, she was the one, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, there's no way that I'm going to have her and our kid live somewhere else. So, I just took that as that wasn't an option. So it's good to see that, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, some guys are just like, it is what it is, so. All right, so you get back here, you a retail superstar, what happens next?
Next, okay, Trevor. So Trevor's born about this time, and I actually get a foothold, man. I applied to the Detroit Police Department several times. I get turned down, but it don't stop me from trying over and over again. For various reasons, I got turned down, and it wasn't clear why. Okay. One of the reasons why I went to the military was to get the skills to be able to come onto the police department.
Right.
So still getting turned down, and so I applied to the Michigan State Police Department. Michigan State Police Department gave me a conditional offer of employment, and I was getting ready to start the academy.
Okay.
So I had big kahunas, man, because I went to Detroit Police Department, and I talked to the commanding officer of the recruiting section, and I showed him my letter of conditional offer from state police. I told him, listen, state police did a much deeper, intensive background investigation, and they found nothing that would, bar me from this job.
Right.
What's up?
Right.
So then they look into my paperwork, man, and that day he offered me a spot. He said, man, if you can just, go down here and take the physical agility test again, because that had expired. He said, man, we can appoint you to the academy.
Nice.
That was a job I really wanted. So
okay.
I ended up getting on Detroit Police Department, and then Trevor's born when I graduated.
Okay. So how did that affect things as far as, your job, or did it really?
Not actually not yet. It didn't really affect. I said Trevor was born, Jonte was born.
Okay.
That's Jonte. It really didn't. I still had that young fire in me. I finally got the job that I always wanted. I always wanted to be a protector out on the street. Actually, I think of police as superheroes.
Yeah.
And so I was a superhero finally, and so I had to experience my wild side being a superhero.
Okay.
I was out there, like, I would be fighting in the streets, running across freeways, chasing people. Boy. Fighting in alleys. I got stabbed on the Detroit Police Department, shot somebody. So, I was out there doing those type of things. But it didn't really change how I looked at fatherhood, except for I felt like I was doing something.
Okay.
And my children always looked at me positively for doing the things I did on the police department too. Okay,
because back in the day, man, like one thing that you're seeing now is the disconnect between our community and the police force, and I can honestly say that because I grew up Linwood and Sturtevant. That's the hood, you know what I'm saying?
I used to live on Sturtevant.
And the police would come around, and it was never negative. First of all, you saw white cops, you know what I'm saying, but you saw more black cops than you did, you know what I'm saying, white cops. And I think that was, that was a positive thing because we could see somebody that looked like us, and they weren't always out there on the corner, you know what I'm saying, or, mistreating people. And these guys actually came into the community, and they didn't harass the kids. They talked to us, tried to steer us out of trouble, because I live right across the street from the neighborhood dope house. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So, one of the first times I ever saw like gang violence, you know what I'm saying, in my neighborhood was I woke up 1 a.m. and dude across the street was and you know, the dope man, neighborhood dope man. I'm not gonna name him, but him, his brother, you know, it was their mother's house. I saw one night, 1 a.m. It was him, the two of them, and another guy just beating the dude up on my front lawn. You know what I'm saying? At like 1 a.m. That's like really the first time I saw something like that. But you know, cops were always looked at. Yeah, NWA was out. You know what I'm saying? But in my neighborhood, that wasn't Compton. You know?
Yeah.
And so we had a positive rapport with the police, and now it's, you know, it's changed because it seems like you see more, you know, more and more white faces in police in the inner city, and it's not a race thing, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes it makes you more comfortable when you see somebody that looks like you.
Yeah, that's
why I'm always trying to find, you know, black role models, you know, for my kids to aspire to. And I'm in one of my big things that I'm into is comic books. So I made it a point to find, you know, to not only, you know, look at the regular, you know, white, you know, comic book head figures, you know what I'm saying, but really go and find, you know, comic book characters that look like me. So like, you know, not only my kids can see that, but like my nieces, my nephews, anybody else I can introduce to the world of comics can see that. Cause like, you know, my best friend told me that, you know, his kids are 8 and 5. And he told me like, you know, he was kind of saddened because his son was like, Dad, it ain't no black superheroes. You can't be black and be a superhero. And so, you know, that kind of like, that made me feel a kind of way. So, you know what, I just like, yo, I got some books for you. So I started sending them stuff and send them just so his kids could see that, because we don't see a lot of positive images, you know what I'm saying, in our community. And President Obama was good for that. You know, that was one thing. Like, I don't agree with all his policies, but it was like, you know, I never in my life ever thought I would see a black president. You know?
You can go.
And it was just like, you know, we need those images, you know what I'm saying? So, all right, so fast forward, you know, go from a retail superhero to a real life superhero, you know, with the Detroit Police Department. So, you know, how was that affecting like your life at home?
There was a lot of things that I was going through that my family could not relate to, but I didn't hold it against them. And so, like, when I got into a shooting at work, you know, you go through a lot of psychological trauma, like post-traumatic stress. But one of the things I believe helped me to get over that is thinking about my kids. One of the things that you do, you tend to withdraw from people who don't want to be bothered, so you kind of retreat into this social little hole. And so instead of doing that, I said, well, I don't want my situation to penalize my children.
Right.
So I would actually like force myself to interact with them. And I believe that the love and connection with them that I had at that time, it caused me to actually like, you know, get over that PTSD that I was going through.
That's good, man, because, you know, a lot of people struggle, especially one being in the military, then being on the police force. You know, that's got to be tough to deal with. Now, did you, aside from that, did you talk to somebody?
Well, they made me talk to somebody when I had the shooting in the police department. But they only give you like so many visits and all of that. Now, I wasn't gonna talk to somebody
right,
because of how we look at like counseling and stuff like that. But I was glad I did. But the counseling helped some, but I think it was really between God and family, particularly kids, that was the most influential factor for me getting beyond my PTSD.
Right. Now, did you always like, you know, depend on God that like you did?
Yeah, since I was a kid, man, that's the only thing that I really think kept me from selling dope or something like that. You know, I think it was God. I was always told that, you know, God had a specific purpose for my life,
right,
and I believed it.
Right.
8 years old, I was walking through the projects to go to church by myself.
Right.
They wasn't taking me to church. I was walking to church.
Man.
And I believed God since they told me He died on the cross for me. And so it was that simple for me. I don't have a profound story,
right,
other than like somebody told me, I believed.
Okay,
that was it. So yeah, it was like God was a very big driving force and motivator throughout my entire life.
Okay, now let me ask you this. So I know, being on the force in the city of Detroit, I know you had to see a lot of things. Did you ever doubt God at any point?
No.
Okay. Because I can tell you, man, dealing with certain things, and this is probably one of the things that kind of like drove me to the military, even though I don't consider myself patriotic. But September 11th was a really hard day for me. And I can remember, what I did. I was working at Walgreens, and I had the same routine. I would get off work, play video games till like maybe 3, 4 in the morning, go to sleep, wake up at noon. Steve Harvey was on, the Steve Harvey show. You know what I'm saying? So I would wake up, watch that every day, same routine. So I remember, that day waking up, and I'm turning the TV on, expecting for the Steve Harvey show to be on, and the news is on. I'm like, man, what is going on, man? It's a movie on. So I'm like, I turn the channel, like, man, why is this movie on every single channel? And then I remember like, hold on, like, yo, this is real. Mm-hmm. So then I remember, man, September 12th it was like, man, the breaking point for me. I questioned God. I wrote an angry letter to God. I talked to my mom about, like, why would God let this happen? You know what I'm saying? So it was, I was in church growing up, but we weren't like super church folk. You know what I'm saying? We went when we were little, and then the older I got, because I played church league basketball, it was like I only went to church because it was like required to. You know what I'm saying? So it was in that moment that, my mom had to sit down and explain to me, you know what I'm saying, why it happened, you know what I'm saying, why God would allow something like that to happen, and, how we could use that to kind of like move forward, So let's fast forward. First, I want to give a shout out to my sponsor for this episode, Relax by J Mace. So I've been telling y'all about my boy Johnny Mason and his custom handcrafted bracelets. He makes everything by hand. He does his research on the beads. If you want, some crystals or something, he got that. I'm wearing 2, bracelets I got for him now. Jose's wearing one. And like I said, it's not like, I'm getting free swag, so I'm pimping it. You know what I'm saying? I actually spent my hard-earned cash to support my homeboy, and because they look good. I don't wear jewelry. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a flashy cat, but I saw his bracelets, and I'm like, okay, I could wear that with this. I can match it to my outfit and not draw crazy attention to myself. So if you want to get a bracelet from Johnny Mason, go to Instagram. He is JMace300 on Instagram, or you can go to his Facebook page, Relax by J Mace. You can see all his creations. You can hit him directly. He gets back to you fast, and it doesn't take him long to do these bracelets. I was in the lab with him, a couple weeks ago, and I actually was able to watch the process myself. So, and he does great quality work. I've never had a bracelet snap on me, and I wear them all the time. I've never had one snap on me. I never had a bead fall off, anything. So you want that good quality, that hot fire, go to Relax by J Mace. Take care of all your beaded jewelry needs. Okay. So up until this point, you got all sons, right?
Yep.
All sons. Find out you're having a daughter. How does that affect you?
Having a daughter changed the whole game. The whole game.
Okay.
Because, as I told you, I had the inner wildness, being on the street, young cop. I was one of the youngest sergeants at that time on Detroit Police Department. Okay. And, I had my daughter, and it just changed how I thought. Without a second thought, I'd be like chasing a guy, man, through dark alleys, fighting in the streets. I had my daughter. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. And, you know, it was kind of convicting because, you know, when she was born, it caused me to be very sensitive. I was much more sensitive.
Okay.
To not just her, you know, not just being a father, but to life itself. You know, I became like kind of more emotional.
Softens you up a little bit.
Quite a bit. A little bit. Quite a bit. Quite a bit. I'm like, I go from like, you know, doing manly boy stuff with my boys to pulling at dresses at Target, man. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it changed the game up considerably. We like, me and my daughter, we cooking in the kitchen with the twin aprons on, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, I know about that.
You know, it totally changed. It changed my life.
Okay. Now, were you married to their mother?
Yes.
Okay. How long were you married?
We was married for 16 years.
Oh man! Wow. Okay. So, fast forward. So, what happened as you know? Saying like your marriage is coming to an end.
Okay, marriage coming to the end. I was a cheater. I was struggling with sexual addiction, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And truthfully, there's many psychological things that we don't actually realize about law enforcement contributing to those type of dysfunctionalities in our lives. For instance, in law enforcement, we find that you know they have a very high rate of divorce.
Right.
It's because many times the individual or the unique stressors, you know, it's really hard to actually do. Here I am. I'm called upon to be a protector, you know, in society. What does it look like if I now ask someone for help?
Right.
So now I hold all of these things in some type of way they play out. Well, socially, psychologically, they play out through our actions, and sometimes, you know, it's that pinned up stress that comes through. It play out through sexual addiction. A lot of cops become promiscuous, and so me already dealing with sexual addiction, and plus, you know, having to these other unique stressors. I'm not trying to make an excuse for it. I'm just, you know, saying exactly what. You know,
right. And you know, it's not an excuse. It's like that's real life. You know what I'm saying? That's reality. Yeah. You know, and a lot of people, oh man, you're just making excuses. No, I'm just, you know, telling you real life. You know, it's not like things are excused. Like, you know, I admitted on, you know, the podcast that I had with my wife, like I was a habitual line stepper. You know, I didn't cheat, but I was tiptoeing at that line, you know what I'm saying? And it was kind of because, you know, I could, and I think it was also kind of because, you know, growing up, I wasn't, you know, the most attractive. I wasn't, you know, the most handsomest guy. What? I mean, you can't tell now, you know what I'm talking about, but, you know, I was like king of the friend zone, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I guess growing up, it was like, even though I was married, it was like, yo, she's showing some interest in me. She looking at your boy, you know, a type of way, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Let me see what I can do, you know what I'm saying? Or, okay, you know what I'm saying? This cutie, wanna holler at me. I ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to have sex, but you know what I'm saying?
Nothing wrong with shouting.
Right, you know what I'm saying? You know, I was a habitual line stepper, you know what I'm saying? So, but a lot of people won't admit that either. You know what I'm saying? That, oh man, you know, it's my fault. You know, because a lot of times we like to place blame on others. You know what I'm saying? I know I do it. I'm pretty sure you've done it before. You know, but once you can, you know, be honest with yourself.
Own it.
You know what I'm saying? Own it. You know what I'm saying? Things will move fast. You know, things are progress and move forward. You know what I'm saying? So, was married for 16 years, coming to a divorce.
So I was doing doing some cheating, but truthfully, on the end, our last probably about four years together, I made a decision to do better. I wanted to be more serious about ministry. And because I was in ministry and I still had those struggles. See, people think that it's all over. Everything become peachy keen when you actually, in ministry. No, it don't. It make it 10 times harder.
Okay.
Make it tougher. So, even in ministry, I wanted to just focus more on my relationship with God, and I started trying. The flip side is she stopped. So she started working out in the plant, and out of working out in the plant, the plant is its own culture.
Man, they say the plant is like the zoo.
Man, that's an understatement. So she was working it, and she got kind of caught up in that way. And I was telling her, listen, I'm at a serious point, where I have to. I know I did things when I was younger, but I'm at a serious point where I have to focus on ministry. Mm-hmm. I asked her to partner with me. Let's let the past be the past, bygones be bygones. And she just couldn't give it up. Okay. And so I left her behind. I filed for the divorce. And she divorced her.
Okay, so how does that affect your relationship with your kids? Who got custody?
We both got custody. We both got 50%.
So it's a joint thing.
Yeah, it's a joint thing.
Okay.
And it affects my relationship. It doesn't affect how I actually interact with them, but it affects sometimes how they interact with me. I can feel some holding back out of some resentment, out of them not understanding it, or even desiring for me and their mom to get a divorce.
Okay. So how's your relationship with her now? Is it?
Oh, we cool, man. We crack up we old friends, man. We laugh. It's real cool.
Because that bond is always there. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Even though the love changes, and I've gotten this from several people I know. Yeah. The bond is always there. The love may change. You stop loving them, but you always got that bond, especially when you have kids.
Well, I never unloved her, brother. I never unloved her at all. I don't know how to unlove a person. I do know that the love will transform, but it don't go away. I don't want to be with her, but I still love her. I love her to this day. And it's just that our relationship, transformed. She's not my wife, or I don't sexually even desire her or nothing like that. Mm-hmm. But we still have a very cordial, family style even relationship.
That's good.
She even came to the church quite a few times.
That's good. That's good.
She supports the ministry. She still believes.
Okay. All right. So you're married again. You know what I'm saying? So how long did you take a break? You know what I'm saying? After the divorce, did you just I'm just going to focus on me. I'm just going to focus on God, you know what I'm saying? Or I need to find a new lady. You know what I'm saying? What was that process?
I never actually, I never took a break, really.
Okay.
I didn't take no break at all. Ciara was there when I was phasing out, my ex-wife.
Okay.
In all honesty. So, she had an opportunity to change. She refused to. And so we got into proceedings, and as the proceedings went on, then Ciara was kind of there.
Okay.
And then, our relationship went to a whole new level, and I had this fear, man, because of the different struggles that I had. One is having a broken household. Mm-hmm. I didn't trust me, man. To be by myself.
Yeah.
I want to be transformed to a player, man. So I felt like I needed to have, a woman there. And as I look back, I'm not sure it was the best decision for those reasons. Mm-hmm. But I can definitely say that, I didn't want to be single and trying to pastor a church. Or single and trying to go through my I wanted to be married because I just don't want to struggle, in sexual addiction and feel like, I'm single too.
Right.
I think it's just a breeding ground of torment.
Right.
So I married Ciara instantly after I divorced her.
Okay. Because, so my situation was Robin came around. I met Robin when I was at work one day. And I was, I had a girlfriend at the time, but it was kind of just me looking for the first chance I could to lead a relationship, and that wasn't me per se, but it was just like, because I've always been the type of dude who I never wanted to be a player. I never wanted to, like, you know, go around and, you know, sow my wild oats. I just wasn't into that, you know. So, you know, I'm trying to, you know, my girl is just like, man, and she was younger than me, and I was just like, dog, I can't do this. So my mentor, Kenyatta, you know, was my manager at Walgreens, so he was like, hey, man, so the next girl that comes in the store, get her number. I'm like, man, what? He's like, the next girl that comes in the store, get her number. So the first girl that came in the store, I was like, I looked at him, he looked at me, because she was a regular customer. So we knew her, and she was kind of in the, you know, she was kind of out there because we developed her pictures. I worked in the photo department, and she was, you know, she was out there, you know, so I was like, no. So then, yeah, it's not going to work at all. So Robin came in watched this, you know, she was like really skinny, this beanpole. She had an afro, you know what I'm saying? And like, I'm like, dog. He was like, go for it. So she makes a beeline and comes directly to the photo counter. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? You know, chatting up, a little small talk. And we had been slow the entire day. So she asked me to help her pull out pick out some reprints. Because her grandma had took some pictures of her. She had some negatives. You know, she wanted to fill out some reprints. So I sat there for like 3 hours helping her pick out these reprints. And I didn't get her number at the end. And I was like, yo, can I get your number? You know, keep it so I can call you sometime. She was like, sure, go ahead. And I'm like, dang, I already put her information through the computer and I can't remember what she said her name was. I'm like, well, write it down, you know. So, long story short, you know, we were friends first. You know what I'm saying? Robin would come over to the crib, and I was in college. So she would come over to the crib, help me with my homework. You know what I'm saying? If I didn't, you know what I'm saying, have bus fare, she would drive me to school because I was going to WC3. Come over, play video games, hang out with me and the fellas. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, she was there for me when I couldn't count on, you know what I'm saying, my girl at the time. I'll never remember Valentine's Day. My girl, like, pushed me to the side. And she had a car. She made way more money than me. And she lived out in Auburn Hills. And as a matter of fact, like, basically I live probably like 5-6 minutes from her house. Like, she still lives in the same house. Her parents still in the same house. My brother was cutting her son's hair, so I see her. But it was just like Robin was always there. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, those used to be the ones. Yeah, man. You know, and I didn't see it at first. You know, it was just friends, and I was like, I think it's really something happening here. So, you know, you know, when you go to church with a girl, that's it. That's it. That's it, man. So, all right. So you said you married Ciara, you know, almost immediately. So how was that? How did that play over with your kids?
Not good. No, bro.
Okay, I can imagine.
No, they couldn't stand Ciara.
Yeah.
Probably because I think age had a lot to do with it. Okay. Like,
so how much older than you? How many years?
10 years. 10 years spread.
Okay.
So, you know, my oldest son, she's closer in age to my older son than we are to each other. Oh. So, you know, I think they're 8 years apart and we're 10. Okay. So, you know, no one, they wasn't able to look at her in a parental role. Right. And so that kind of like had some influence on our family kind of dynamics.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how's the relationship with them now?
Now it's better.
Okay.
It's better. They can half stand there now. They had their moments, their ups and downs. Blended family is a challenge anyway. Okay. Statistically, it take anywhere from 3 to 7 years to start to norm when you have a blended family.
Okay. So, you know, you and Ciara have been married almost 4 years, right? 4 years. Okay. Any plans for kids for you two? No. Ship has sailed, huh? Yeah. Oh man. Okay. All right. So, getting down to the end. Only got a couple more questions for you. So, which one of your kids do you think mirrors you the most? Like, as far as like your personality goes, your actions, your mannerisms. Which one of your kids do you think mirrors you the most?
I can't give a certain kid, man. I feel like God took a lot of my different characteristics and just shotgun blasted it through the kids. Man, I can see, like, I don't see one kid having, like,
one specific thing.
Nope.
Okay.
Like, I can see like little pieces of me in each and every one of them.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry. I hope I answered your question.
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, hey, yeah. I look at my kids and I'm like, and one of the funny things is like, all your kids look exactly like you, except for Jose. My kids, and I don't know if you struggle with this. Like, I don't think my kids don't really look like me. They did growing up, especially CJ, but now all of them look like Robin. And I'm like looking at pictures. I'm like, okay, CJ is my complexion, Liv is my complexion, but it's like, man, y'all look just like her, man. Where I'm at, know. Yeah. So, all right. So, 2 more questions. Well, 1 more question. Then I always ask everybody a bonus question.
Okay.
All right. So, last question. If you could sum up fatherhood in 1 word, what would it be? Challenging? Yeah. That's different.
It's challenging.
Okay.
I think it's challenging because it takes a person to have a good balance. I mean, you're like a juggler. You have to juggle life circumstances that is coming at you. You have to juggle your own emotions. You have to juggle your relationship with God. You have to juggle your relationship with your spouse, because that's something that impacts your children too. You have to juggle all of these different factors and be good at juggling too, because you drop one thing at any given time, you can cause an adverse effect on your children. And so I think it's very challenging to keep all of these different principles in motion at the same time and still be able to be intentional and purposeful toward developing your children and preparing them to be productive members of society, preparing them to have a relationship with God, actually preparing them to be, successful, as an individual.
That's a real good answer. And it's an answer that I haven't heard before.
Wow.
That's a dope answer. All right. So I'm trying to think of a bonus question, because all the bonus questions always come out of the blue, right?
Okay.
So if I could think of one bonus question to ask you, just kind of, I guess I got to go with this one, because I've seen you use both, and we've talked about this.
Okay.
iPhone or Android, and why?
It gotta definitely be Android, man. I'm prejudiced against
Team Android over here.
Yeah, I'm Team Android all day, every day. And the reason being, I got a reason for almost anything.
Okay.
And my reason is because the interface is different. I think it's more user friendly. It's more simple. You actually have more tools. If you look at Android against iPhone, you got more features. I can say iPhone is more secure, but that's it.
All right, man. Yeah, I'm rocking Team Android. I had a little dalliance with the iPhone, but I had to come back home.
Yeah. Welcome home.
All right, so Jose, I want to thank you very much for becoming coming on the podcast, telling your story. Because I think that, and the reason why I do this is because I feel like every man has a story, and a lot of times, especially in our community, we don't have an outlet to tell those stories, or people act like our stories aren't important, and I want to change that narrative. So I want to thank you for coming on the podcast, being real, being honest, man. Because hey, some people could be scared to do that because it takes. It's hard looking in the mirror. You know what I'm saying? It takes courage looking in the mirror and just being honest with yourself. So I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. So tell the people where they can find you before we go.
You can find me at on Facebook, Jose Dorsey, or you can also find me right here at the Center of Spirit and Truth, 11663 Arcola in Livonia, Michigan.
Every Sunday.
Looking for a place where you want people to love on you. You want to actually be a part of something that's genuine. You don't want all the facades and all that stuff. You want to truly come and worship God. We're here for you.
And that's one of the reasons why I love our church, because, we may not be big in number, but we're big on love and big in family. So, if you can get here, come join us. You can join, like the Facebook page and watch us live stream every Sunday. And you got another business too. Tell the people about that. And you have a show yourself. So, tell about that. Yeah, man.
All right, Sweeps Entertainment. You can find us also on Facebook. We have very low cost DJ and entertainment prices. Very much under the market. Actually, I don't really do it so much for the money. I do it because I love interacting with people. Mm-hmm. It's really fun. It's a great business. I did it initially to mentor to my kids in entrepreneurship. They said they didn't want to do it, but so I got stuck with it. But it does very well. For every one event we do, we usually get like 5 to 10 referrals.
Okay.
So it's doing very well. And I also have a show. It's called Theologically Speaking with Jose Dorsey. Mm-hmm. I'm a shameless plug. I want you to be on my show.
All right.
But it happens every Thursday from 6:30 to 7:00 p.m. And it's every first and third Thursday. So Theologically Speaking with Jose Dorsey, I want to feature the Black Dad Chronicles on there, where I just I want to do a show takeover, man. I want to just yield my whole half an hour over to you to do what you want to do.
Oh, I mean, hey, it's just thanks. I'm honored. I don't know what I'll talk about, but
Black dads.
hey, man, that's what I do. So let me ask you this before we go. How long you been DJing?
Man, I've been DJing for probably about 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so what made you start DJing?
I truthfully met this DJ, and he saw me. I was running something called a day auction. I was emceeing it.
Okay.
And he said, "Man," "you a crazy MC. Do you know how much money you can make just emceeing?" I said, "Nah." He said, "Man, you could like do TV shows and radio and stuff like that."
Because you have a voice for that. And you have a certain charisma about you, you know what I'm saying, and a certain swag that I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's like, "Man, do you know what you can do with that?" And I'm like, "No, man." He's like, "How much do you charge? How much would you charge me to come do some events with me?" And at first, I didn't even charge him because I didn't know what to charge. It was just fun for me. So I came out with him, and then he hired me. I would get paid like $50, $100. It was just basically for fun. Pay my gas,
right?
And I'm happy.
Yeah.
So I did that, and so his in his business, he went from doing maybe a booking every other week to I help him out more than quadruple his business emceeing with him.
Nice.
So he was going to 3 and 4 bookings in one day.
Nice.
Being filled up, whole calendar filled up.
Okay.
So I asked him to partner with him, and he didn't want to partner with me, and so I said, "Wow, before I go out and just make him all the money, I should actually, because I don't sell like a DJ. Anybody can get an iPod and DJ or a computer and DJ.
Right.
I sell an entertainment experience.
Okay.
From the very first time we sit down and we lay out an itinerary to, how the logistics and how we set up to, interacting with the crowd and actually having an overall DJ experience. Somebody might be able to scratch better than me. They can't entertain better than me."
Nice. All right. Well, you heard it here. Sweeps Entertainment. You got the website, right?
No,
or just Facebook?
I use Facebook.
Okay, all right. Well, once again, Brother Dorsey, I want to thank you so much for joining the podcast. God bless you, brother, and happy Father's Day, because we're recording this on Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers.
Yeah, happy Father's Day. I did release a Father's Day episode. You can find that at the Black Dad Chronicles on Facebook. You can also follow me on Instagram at the Black Dad Chronicles. You can follow me on Twitter at Black Dad Chron. Like I said, I'm thinking about changing the handle because Twitter won't let me use Black Dad Chronicles. So just you can email me at blackdadchronicles@gmail.com. Join the conversation. I want to tell your stories, fellas. Ladies, if you know a dad, if you want, your dad has an incredible story, an amazing story. Maybe your brother, your spouse, uncle, cousins, whoever. I would love to tell their story on the podcast. So I want to thank you guys for listening. Thanks for showing all the love that you've shown me. Peace. I'm gonna let this intro ride out. I'm not gonna spit no bars over it this time because I can't rap. Peace out.